welcome to the Plague Hive. Today I'm joined by Josiah, who recently took his Redline Uzuri list to a top 8 finish at the Calling Phuket. Welcome and thanks for joining me on the channel. First up, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into the game and why exactly did you decide to play Uzuri?
Hey, I actually got into Uzuri by coincidence, I guess, but I also did a little bit of research into it. So how I came across Uzuri was because I started off as a Runeblade main, so I was actually a Viserai player. So when Outsiders came out, naturally we cracked Outsiders, and I got a Codex of Frailty. So my friends were like, "Oh, this is a really expensive card." Then I also managed to get a Rainbow Fall Plague Hive surprise, the name of the channel.
Very
So
nice.
yeah, so that was sort of how I decided maybe I should take a look at Uzuri and consider it. So when Ohim left the meta, there was a gap in the I would say there was a gap in the fatigue area of the game, and
Yep.
I considered picking up Uzuri because Uzuri seemed like a deck that would be consistent in a way where it could play a lot of blues, and it was also blues that could um be effective in the game. So that was how I started out Uzuri. It started out in a contract list, and clearly I am no longer there based on
Definitely
my
not.
list.
Definitely
Yep,
not. Yeah,
yep,
yeah, yeah. True.
yeah, but yeah, so that's how I picked up Uzuri to start off with.
Okay, right. So you kind of started out with like the fatigue contract style and then just slowly morphed into what you're playing now. And
Yep.
yeah, let's just switch over there real quick. So yeah, this is the list that you're playing at the moment. So
Yeah.
it's like a very much the opposite, I would say, of a contract fatigue heavy list.
Yeah.
Because like I think this list is probably redder, honestly, than any list I've seen in the last couple of, I want to say, months maybe. Because like obviously if you compare it to like the very early Redline builds, pioneered by Ben Dodd, that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
those ran even less blues. I think the OG version had like some 5 blues in it or something.
Oh yeah, the
Um,
one without a surgical.
yeah, the no surgical list where everybody was like, "Why are you not running this card? It's good." And
Madness.
madness. But I think recently most red line lists, and I kind of hesitate to call it that because it's really just a aggressive stealth list. That's really it
Yeah,
works,
yeah,
but
it is.
the name just kind of stuck. Yeah, right? Everybody calls it red line, and
Mhm.
we know what's meant, right? If it's a list that
Yeah.
runs rebels and a lot of stealth cards, that's basically how it goes. But most of these are running like 12-ish blues normally, and you're on like 9 blues in the main board over here.
I'm
Um,
on about 9 blues.
and then you got like the one more in the inventory, but we'll talk about
Yep.
that a little bit later. So yeah, definitely very red heavy list. I would imagine this list actually probably has issues tackling Runeblade, but also
Mm,
nobody's really playing Runeblade at the moment,
yeah.
so it's kind of
Yep.
not that much of a deal, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, all right, let's just go over it from the top. We're starting with the equipment here.
Mhm.
Lots of common choices, I think, here. So you've got Black Tech Whisperers, Flick Knives, Spring Tunic, Nerf Scalpel, Spider Spite. I have seen aggressive Uzuri lists in the past skip the Black Techs and just run with like Snapdragon Scalers, right?
Mhm.
Because Black Techs, obviously, they block one, right? So that's great, but they are also less flexible in their usage than
Yeah.
Snapdragons, obviously, because you have to be unblocked and you have to hit a hero, so you can't use it on an attack into a dragon, for example, right? Which is
Unfortunately.
relevant for another week or so, probably. And then hopefully we'll never have to worry about that again.
Yeah. Get rid
Um,
of her.
but yeah, so you only run the black text. You don't have snapdragons in the sideboard, which is also something that I've seen in the past. So what was the reasoning there? Do you actually get to rebuy this occasionally with the silver you generate, or is it just like I like the extra block and that's why it's in the list?
Okay, so part of it is because of the extra block,
Mm-hmm.
and also there in the current meta we have loads of warriors.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see, I played three already did, and reactions count as non-action cards.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually quite relevant, and we yeah, it's quite possible to buy back black text for maybe 2 to 3 times in a game. I mean,
Okay.
trigger black text 2 to 3 times in a game is
Yep.
very much possible.
Yeah. Okay, that's true. Yeah, against warrior, actually, you have a decent chance, especially like the dual wield warrior decks, right? That are pretty
Hmm.
popular at the
Yep.
moment, like Hatchet Dory or Kassai. Those run a lot of reactions. You have like the Rainbow Blade Runners, stuff like that.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's true. Those actually count for already dead. So in a way, you have like
Yeah.
9 contracts in a list that can potentially make you silver. Okay, yeah,
Yep.
makes sense. And then obviously because it's a redline list, that's like the only silver outlet you have, right? You're not running
Hmm.
Graven Call, you're not running Mask of Perdition. So getting, some sort of payout for that silver, something you can do with it, obviously is nice.
Yeah.
Flick Knives, also very great card. I think it's like de facto the standard arms piece for Uzuri. I don't think there's a reason to run anything else in that slot.
Yeah.
It's just too good. The ability to
Hmm.
just at baseline say, right, my opponent starts at 38 life instead of 40 is like extremely powerful. And then it
Mm.
just gets better from there because you can do like the
Yeah.
nerf scalpel combat trick, right? A lot of heroes are running prevention effects these days, right? You have stuff like
Mhm.
no fear, you have take it on the chin, you have the
Mm.
angels from Prism, stuff like that, sand cover from Dromai. All of these effects can be basically nullified by flicking a dagger, and then you can flick a dagger for like upwards of 4 to 5 value sometimes. So it can be really, really impactful in that.
Yeah.
Um, Tunic, also absolute standard piece. I wish we could run Redback Shroud. I keep saying that,
Ah.
but we're not there yet. I have hopes
Yeah.
that Part the Mistveil is going to give us a couple of reactions that maybe make it a little bit more interesting. But I think for now, if you run anything but Tunic, you're just experimenting around with stuff. But I think if you're
Yeah.
reasonable and like about the game and you want to compete, I think you should run Tunic. And there's not really anything
Mhm.
else to say about that. And then we have the new headpiece from Heavy Hitters, Balance of Justice.
Yes, balance.
This card is like, I don't know. When I saw it first, I was like, yeah, right, it's nice, but it's like it doesn't work into a lot of matchups, and I didn't see it as like a huge upgrade over Crown of Providence, but it really feels like that. It feels extremely powerful just because it just gives you a card, and then you can
Yeah.
block for more on exactly the turn where they have their like biggest impactful play. You
Mhm.
just get extra cards to do something to block with, or to keep a card to crack back, that kind of stuff. It's just
Mm.
really good. Do you run it into anyone where the effect might not be live, or do you just go, okay, if they can run anything that draws them cards, I run Balance of Justice and that's it, and for everybody else you just run Crown of Providence in the sideboard here?
I'm kind of 50-50 on Kassai at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure whether to go with Crown or Balance, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
still testing it out because sure, Kassai runs cash in, but she may board out her cash in
Mm-hmm.
against us. So that's something I'm considering. I also have a local fight that decided he doesn't want to play Art of War anymore because of balance. So
Okay.
so I just have a balance against fight that doesn't trigger, just blocks
Right.
two.
Okay. I mean, that's like the thing about balance. It's like even when it's not live, it's not the end of the day. Like it's not
Yeah.
terrible.
Yep.
It just blocks two. And blocking two on an equipment piece is pretty decent. Especially considering that we're assassin and we don't really get to do that otherwise. Like our headpiece is the only thing we have that really blocks 2. Anything else is just like block 1 once and then that's it basically.
Yeah.
So we're not exactly guardians over here who can like run 4 or 5 equipment pieces with like 2 to 3 block on them. So yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, and then we have
We can throw our entire fridge and it still be less than uh it still be less than carrion husk.
yeah, it's sad truth. Yeah. Um, yeah, and then we have Nerf Scalpel and Spider's Bite for like the standard daggers. And I already saw you have Scale Peeler in the sideboard. I
Yep.
assume this is for like Kassai, obviously, and Hatchet Dorinthia.
Mm.
Or like generally Warrior, just because they run a whole bunch of fridge. Do you
Yeah.
run this into anyone else? I know some people like to run it into Brute, and some people don't. It's kind of like a bit split. I think you kind of run it into KO and Levia just because they don't run D-Reacts typically.
Yep.
How do you feel about Rhinar?
I'm currently on Nerf Scalpel for Rhina
Mm-hmm.
because I believe Rhina still has a whole load of D-Reacts. I mean, at the very least, he runs 3 Sing Belows,
Yeah.
and there's quite a high chance that they're on Fate Foreseen as well,
Mm-hmm.
and Reckless Swing, of course.
Sure. Yeah.
So, being able to get that one pop-off turn with Nerf Scalpel might make the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Makes sense. Yeah. What's your thought into the Guardian, specifically Bravo? Because I think Victor typically doesn't run many D-Reacts, if he
Yep.
runs any at all. So there, obviously, you go with Scale Peeler. But
Yeah.
how do you feel into Bravo?
Into Bravo, I'm currently on Nerf Scalpel,
Mm-hmm.
but I may be convinced to try out Scale Peeler instead.
Mm-hmm.
But the issue with okay, so for the Bravo matchup, the thing is when we started out we said don't throw your daggers
Mm-hmm.
at Bravo because you want to dagger as much as possible, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So the issue here is my list is such an aggressive list that I don't usually find the chance where I need that many dagger hits.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time is like maybe towards the end game
Mm-hmm.
where I kind of need I guess maybe one dagger and like a codex
Mm-hmm.
kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I may be convinced to try out Scale Peeler, but I think Nerf Scalpel might still be the better choice against Bravo because
Okay.
he does have quite a number of
Oh
D-Reacts
yeah,
as well,
yeah.
I would
Like
say.
I mean, usually
Yeah.
they run like 9 D-Reacts on like those,
Hmm.
I would say, regular build. So they have like Fate, Sings, and then usually blue unmovables. And then sometimes you get the really defensive ones that also run a couple of
Oh.
staunch responses. So you have
Yeah,
like
those are the.
something like 15 D-Reacts sometimes. So you're almost like, okay, where am I supposed to throw this Nerf Scalpel? There's too
Yep.
many options
Yep.
for me.
Yep.
But yeah, I get like if you're playing a list that has a maximum of 10 blues available, the chance of you actually daggering twice in a turn is relatively
It's not
low,
likely.
right? So I guess that
Yeah.
makes sense that you're more willing, to flick the Nerf Scalpel and just play the game with a single dagger than maybe lists that run a little more blue heavy and can, utilize double daggers more often. So that makes sense, yeah. Okay. And then to round out the equipment, we have Nullrune Hood here as like the only arcane barrier piece.
Yeah.
So I assume this is for Kano and also the odd rune blade that you might encounter.
Yep.
Do you actually feel like this deck has a decent chance into Kano this way, or is it
Um.
more of like a Hail Mary pass? I'm just, might as well run it.
I mean, it honestly, it's there for the room blades,
Yeah.
but I mean, if I'm facing Kano, I'm bringing it in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, this deck does stand a chance, but you really have to draw hot,
Yeah.
and yeah, like you really have to rush the Kano down.
I mean, you run really aggressive, right? Like you have the
Yep.
Rabbles, you have Hurls, you have Looking for a Scrap, Nimble Strike, and you have a bunch of reactions to back it up in like 7
Yeah.
copies of Shred, 2 Spreading Plague, stuff like that. nimblisms too. So you can, push out a bunch of damage. But yeah, I would imagine Kano's probably like hard if they really know what they're doing, unless you high roll them and just draw like all of your aggression in the first like couple of hands. So, but yeah, that's it. That the eternal Uzuri problem is trying to beat Kano, and it's just not always possible.
Nope.
All right. Okay. So that takes care of the equipment here, and yeah, as usual, guys, like the link to the deck will be down in the description of the video, of course. And Josiah has been nice enough to give us an entire matchup right up here. So if you want to take this deck out for a spin, you can do that. You can check out everything, all of his thoughts on sideboarding and stuff. But we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. So let's go over the main board here. There's a bunch of things here that I would expect to see. Obviously, we have CNC, Death Touch, E-Strike, Rainbow Isolate, which I think is also standard if you play an aggro stealth list, right? You're not mucking about with contracts or anything, so you just want as many ways to dominate an attack as possible, basically. So
yeah.
And then we have Leave No Witnesses, Shakedown, Codex of Frailty, of course. Also another card that is like absolute staple in Uzuri. And then Surgical Extraction and Backstab in blue. And then Infects in red to round out the stealth package. So you have a total of 15 stealth cards, right?
Yeah.
So like I said, the isolates are obvious, right? You want Dominate. Why did you go for Infect and Backstab specifically? What's the idea there? Because you do have a couple of other options. Like you could run Blue Infect, for example, if you value the damage higher. I have seen a couple of decks experiment around with Infiltrate actually recently in the like other red stealth slot, so over Infect. Or you could run something like Wither, for example, if you really specifically wanted to target warriors, for example.
Yeah.
So what's the reasoning behind these two specific ones?
So for blue backstab, it's really just a blue to support my looking for scraps. But the reason why I chose backstab was simply for the chance of backstab command and conquer.
Just get that interaction. Okay, makes sense. Yeah.
So as for red infect, I actually experimented with infiltrate as well, but I didn't really like it. I know some people are really high on infiltrate at the moment, but I decided to bounce back onto infect.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's like if you're looking at the card in terms of consistency, I think infect is better. Just because you always know what you get from it, right? Like if it hits, you get 2 damage, basically. That's it. You get a Blood Rot token. And that's, just it's reliable, it's consistent, you know what it's gonna do, and you can kind of calculate around that, right?
Yeah.
With Infiltrate, obviously, it has a much higher ceiling. You could hit something like a Sink Below, for example, right? And then suddenly your Infiltrate was like 4 extra value instead of 2 that you would have gotten from the Infect. But you could also get a card that just is unplayable for you on this turn or the next one, and then it just got 0 value. So it's a more, I would say, a variance card compared to Infect. And I guess it's just kind of down to what exactly you want your deck to do. If you say, okay, I like having these like slight high rolly cards where I can maybe grab something off of an enemy that is just like really good value, or I just like to have the consistency of having something that I can calculate with. So yeah, I think if you're going for the more consistent plays, Infect makes perfect sense.
Another thing about Infect is that so the goal of the deck is to get the opponent down to lethal range as quickly as possible, because that's where Uzuri asks the most questions.
True.
Right? It's like, can I swap? Will I swap? Do I have a shred in hand? Right? So that's where my goal for this deck is. It's to get the opponent down to lethal as quickly as possible.
Okay.
So Infect would be easier way to do it. And also Infect is a 3. And Scowling Flashback blocks for 2. So
Yeah,
if they
yeah.
block my infect, one
They
leaks through and they take 2 extra
they
damage.
they still take it. Yeah, that's actually I mean, arguably the same can be said about infiltrate,
Mhm.
or all of the red stealth cards really. But yeah, it's true. Like red infect is a nice scowling bait because they still take some damage and they're most likely
Yep.
not going to commit another piece, either
Yeah.
card or equipment to defense there. Just to prevent like 2 extra damage, so you can just leak a
Yeah.
little bit and still get some value from the flashback turn. And then ideally you did that when you had a death touch in hand, and you can set that up in arsenal, and all the good stuff. All right. So yeah, that mostly takes care of the main board. We have Enlightened Strike here, which is also, I think, just core in Uzuri. Basically every single build, just because it's flexible and it does what you need it to at basically every single point in the game. And then you also run Already Dead. You already said that this is like actually a pretty decent silver generator in a warrior heavy meta, which I
Yep.
completely agree with. What are the other reasons for you to run this card? Because it's like it's stupid expensive still, and the
Yeah,
majority
it is.
of people can't figure out why, because they're like, okay, this card is good, but it's not like worth $50 kind of good, you know. So what's your take on Already Dead? Like, where do you
Um,
see the card?
so I'm pretty high on the card at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I feel like there are too many heroes with fridges running around. So we have
True.
KO that has probably about like 8,
8 to 9,
like,
I think. If you count Tunic, it's
yeah,
it's
it's
nine.
quite a
Yeah.
big fridge. Then
Yep.
there's like the one-handed warriors that
Mm-hmm.
are like Valiant Dynamo that blocks every turn.
Yeah, yeah. Dynamo is insane.
Yeah, yep. So over the weekend, I actually banished about like 3 pieces of equipment. So
Nice.
yeah, I'm pretty sold on the card at the moment, I would say.
Yeah. I think that the best play that you can sometimes get when you get really lucky is when you have Shred and Already Dead in the same hand, and they block with like 2 pieces of equipment,
Oh,
and one of them has Temper. And
temper.
then
Yep,
you can just get rid of like 2 pieces of
true.
equipment in one go. That is like
Mhm.
really, really nasty. But yeah, like they have to. I think they have to slightly misplay for that to happen, really. But yeah, sometimes it just lines up that way, and you get a huge amount of value off of it. So yeah, definitely a very solid card. I don't think it's worth the asking price,
Oh,
but
no,
that's
no.
that's probably more down to bright lights just not being opened a whole bunch, and then you just
Yeah.
have the usual supply and demand issue, and it just ends up being extremely expensive. But it's definitely a good card, and I think it should be run in the majority of assassin decks for sure. Okay, and then we have in the main board here 6 copies of Shred, where like yellow shreds in the main board are pretty typical. I think that's almost universal. But do you really run red shreds into everything? Is that actually a main board card for you? Or are there
Um,
matchups where you side it out?
there are matchups where I side it out, but very rarely. It's
Mm-hmm.
in for most matchups
Okay.
because I just don't wanna flip a blue off
Okay.
rebel.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Fair enough. Like you just need to keep the red count as high as possible. Okay. That makes
Mhm.
sense. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that takes care of the main board over here. So let's go over the sideboard a little bit. Again, there's a couple of regular options here. We've got Sync Belows. We've got Fate Foreseen. So you have your standard 6 D-Reacts. You run 3 copies of Inertia Trap.
Yeah.
And that card is fantastic. I also run it at the moment. I don't have space for all 3 of them because I also run Oasis Respite. But I think
Mm.
if you're just disrespecting Kano a little bit more, going up to 3 Inertia Trap makes perfect sense. Yeah, the card is just, there's so many heroes that run buffed attacks at the moment, and
Mhm.
having access to basically an extra 3 copies of Command and Conquer that you can use reactively on their opponent's turn is just extremely strong. So yeah, I love Inertia Trap. Really good card. Then you have the Ravenous Rebels, and that's actually interesting that you put these in the sideboard, because I think most lists that run Rebels run them in the main board just because the card is so above rate when you don't hit the blue, basically.
Mm.
So you do side that out. What do you side it out for? Like which
So
matchups?
it's sided out against certain aggro matchups because of the two blocks.
Okay. So stuff like Katsu, for example, or
Yeah,
okay, all right, yeah, fair enough. Okay, so then we got hurls, which I assume are just like
dragon killers.
you need to respect, yeah, Dromai for one more week, and then you can probably take those out. Like
Yeah.
if we're talking about a post Dromai world, like what would you run instead of hurl in this exact, if you, otherwise the list is the same. We're just taking out hurl and then probably down and dirty, because I'm assuming this is also like a Dromai tech
Yep.
card. What do you do
I
with those
might
three?
consider adding one more looking for scrap.
All right. Yep, I can see that. Very, very
Yeah.
strong card.
And maybe sigils or maybe
Mhm.
more blue shreds.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you
I'll have to test it out.
how do you feel about Frailty Trap currently?
Frailty Trap. So, I'm not really high on Frailty Trap into Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people are,
Mm-hmm.
but okay, the way I see it is most Warriors on their first attack, it's a 2.
Yeah.
So, Frailty Trap doesn't exactly get its maximum value
Yep.
because you're blocking a 3 on a 2.
Yep.
Yeah. So I usually when I'm facing one-handed warriors, I just let the first attack hit
Mm-hmm.
since it's a 2, and I block like the second attack.
Mm-hmm. No, I get that. Like, that is basically my reasoning too. I think the only turns where it's really good, if we're talking about Hatchet Dory, for example,
Mhm.
is like either a Spoils of War turn or a Spillblood turn. Because those are
Yeah.
typically the ones where she's coming in for 4 on the first swing. And that's the only way you can get the maximum value off of Frailty Trap, is if the first attack comes in for 4 or like above that, right? Obviously.
Yep.
And then you get maximum value off of it. But I agree that this is rare enough that it's kind of hard to line up the Frailty Trap for it.
Mhm.
Obviously, if you can get the Frailty Trap on like Blood on Her Hands turn against Kassai, right?
Oh yeah, then
Or
it's
a
great.
or a Spillblood turn against Dorinthia, or like a Lumina turn against Bolton, it's amazing. But the
Mhm.
problem I have with the card is that those things need to line up that way, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to guarantee that they will line up in that way.
Mhm.
Against Lexi, Frailty Trap was always good, because Lexi
Yeah,
always,
it's just there every
it's
turn.
just there every single turn. Like, you always get maximum value off a Frailty Trap every single turn. It's always at
Mhm.
least a 5 block card against Lexi, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes a 6 block card, which is amazing, or was amazing, right? And against the Warriors, it's a little less reliably above rate. That's kind of the issue I have with it, I think. Yeah. So that makes sense. I get that reasoning, yeah. Okay, then we have looking for a scrap, and then looking for a scrap at home, aka Nimble Strike. um, those are basically interchangeable, right? Like, they do
Yep.
the
Yep.
exact same thing. You just feed them different things.
Yep.
Looking for a scrap is a little bit more flexible, because you can also banish a dagger to it. So you have that like added line where you can just go, okay, I don't have a blue stealth card in my graveyard. Maybe I can chuck a dagger, and then next turn I have something that I can use as a fodder for looking for scrap. And Nimble Strike doesn't have that flexibility. If you see your Nimble Strike before you've seen any Nimblisms, you kind of have to either arsenal it and just hope you draw the Nimblism in the next couple of hands. And based on my experience, that's not necessarily a
It's
good
not a great
idea.
plan.
It's not a good plan. I have absolutely done that and then sat on that Nimble Strike for like 5 turns, because the Nimblisms were all in like the bottom 10 cards of my deck. Or you just, pitch it away, and then you hope you get to see second cycle and it's impactful
Mm.
there. So looking for a scrap is a little more flexible in that regard. So I would never run more than one Nimble Strike. But I
Yeah.
can absolutely see going up on looking for a scrap. if you run a couple of extra blue stealth cards, or just, if you're more comfortable flicking a dagger early, it's definitely a very strong card. Okay, then we have the 1 copy of Down and Dirty. Like I already said, I assume this is Dromai, and that's it. Yeah.
I Prism, I guess, but
fair enough. Yeah. I mean, it works sometimes against Prism. That's true. You would run it just because you want to run as many poppers as possible. But if you only had to think about Prism, would you run this?
Not likely. I don't think so.
Okay, fair. Makes sense, yeah. And then we have the Nimblisms down here, which feed Nimble Strike, but also they're just good extenders. It's basically like a hurl that you can't flashback.
Yeah.
And it makes your on-hits more threatening, right? So like Nimblism into Death Touch, Nimblism into Leave No Witnesses, or even just Nimblism into Isolate to, get that 6 Dominate to finish a game.
Yep.
All of those are like really powerful plays. Nimblism into E-Strike for 10, also pretty solid. People don't usually expect an Assassin deck to suddenly hit for 10 damage, so that can be pretty interesting. Just a good flexible extender. We have the Amnesias up here, and 3 copies is a lot. Like, I run a single copy of it, and that's just kind of something I'm experimenting around with it. I think I remember you saying you ran this for Katsu, and then you didn't see a single Katsu the entire event.
Yeah. So, I mean, Amnesia was sort of a meta call, so it was a flex slot. I was jumping between 3 Amnesia and 3 Humble.
Right.
Yeah, but Amnesia blocks 3, which is sort of why it won.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get to actually use it? Because I mean, obviously it's the best against Katsu, but it's also pretty relevant against Prism, for example. Did that come up? Because I remember you did play against the Prism, right?
Yeah, actually it did come up 1/3 where the Prism was knocked by Amnesia, and he was kind of lost as well because he didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Because it was his first time facing Uzuri, and it was my first time facing Prism.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting,
But
okay.
yeah, so we just called like a judge and had it handled.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I imagine that's an interesting game then, when both of you have played against the other deck for the first time, and you're just like, okay, what does this thing do? Like, because both of these decks do a lot of stuff that's like not really apparent at face value, and there's a lot of like interactions that are a little bit, tricky to fully grasp. So I imagine that makes for an interesting game if you're doing that at a calling and you haven't really, figured it out before. Probably pretty interesting. Okay. And then lastly, we have a single blue shred here, which, you just want more shred, but you don't want them in the main board. Makes sense. So this comes in, I assume, for like the grindy games like Bravo, Victor, everything where you have to play the long game. You just run this. And then
it also comes in as a 3 block sometimes.
I mean, that's fair, yeah. Against like Kassai, for example, or Bolton, where you just need extra things to block with that aren't attacks. Having access to extra reactions is definitely a good thing, yeah. And then, Spreading Plague, which kinda, I assume, does the same thing. Like, it probably comes in the same matchups as the Blue Shred. And, it's sort of for the same purpose, right? You just kind of try to play around people blocking a lot and being very defensive and very grindy, and then Spreading Plague can just sometimes cut that short.
Yeah, Spreading Plague's also for the chance of the turn 0 high roll.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, that's
so usually if I'm forced to go first, I will sideboard in I'll take out like 2 yellow shreds, and then I'll dump in like 2 Spreading Plague to balance it out.
Okay, that makes sense, yeah. That's a good call, actually. Like, I don't think I would do that in my list because I only run 3 yellow shreds. I don't have the reds. But I think if you also have the red shreds, that makes absolute sense, because then you can just sometimes you do stuff like you play an infect and they just block 6 or sometimes even 9 because they're afraid of, the follow-up. And then you just hit them with Spreading Plague and they start the game on like some less life, depending on how they want to play it, right?
Mhm.
but you just get around their blocks. So that's a neat way. Yeah, it's kind of like the spreading plague and nourishing emptiness thing that
Yeah.
Ben used to run for a bit, right? Where you just have a bunch of cards in the deck that are specifically good on turn zero, just to sometimes get the high roll, and then you just go like, right, if I'm playing a large event like a calling where I have 11 rounds of Swiss, the chances of that happening in 1 or 2 games are pretty high. And then
Yeah.
maybe I get a win off of the back of that. So that's pretty decent, yeah. Okay, so that takes care of the entire deck, main board and inventory. Let's just quickly go over the matchups a little bit. So, like I already said, you've been nice enough to configure all of this for us, and anybody who wants to play this deck can just, grab the deck, check out the matchups, and there's instructions for basically every matchup. Is there anything in here that stands out to you, like any sideboarding choices that are maybe like not that common in your opinion? You already mentioned the whole spreading plague for turn zero plays, that kind of stuff. So that's
Mhm.
definitely interesting. Anything else that would come to mind?
For my Dorinthia matchup, I'm actually sideboarding in a way where I do not know which weapon she's running. So I'm trying to, because with Dorinthia there's currently three viable builds whereby
Mm-hmm.
she could go with the Decimator Great Axe,
Mm-hmm.
she could go with the hatchets, or
Mm-hmm.
she could go with on blade.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm currently sideboarding it in a way whereby there's a possibility to win into all three,
Mm-hmm.
but in exchange it's kind of odd into all
Yeah.
three at the same time.
All right. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. Okay. You just need to hedge your bets a little bit, and you just go like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to face, so yeah. You bring in the D reacts, for example, and those are kind of bad against the decimator lists, right? But they're
Yeah,
really
they're horrible.
necessary against Dawnblade, and they're okay, pretty decent against the hatchet list. So you just kind of run them. That makes sense. Yeah. All right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. All right, so yeah, like I said, anybody who wants to, check this out can just go over the matchups and check out everything there, and that should be good. Yeah, let's just quickly go over your run at the
Yeah,
event
sure.
before we jump into the game itself. Obviously, we're gonna do the, customary test game that we always do on this channel. But before we go into that, let's maybe go over the opponents that you faced in the Swiss. So, what was that like? Maybe just run it down for us from the start.
So for my round one, I actually faced my playtesting partner.
Mm-hmm.
So she was on Levia,
Mm-hmm.
and so I lost that match because she basically knew my whole deck inside out.
Right. Okay. Fair.
Yeah. So I started off with a round one loss,
Okay.
and I went on to round two. I faced a Slapdash.
Mm-hmm.
So this Slapdash was on Arcanite Skullcap,
Mm-hmm.
and surprisingly, she was on Ironhide for the arms and the legs as well.
Okay.
And like, so it was kind of an odd build. She ran Findel's Fighting Spirit
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of other, I would say, special, I guess,
Right. Okay.
special stuff. Yeah, but it's probably a very fatiguish kind of slapdash.
Mm-hmm.
So for this game, we played till the second cycle, and because the minute he flipped open his equipment, it was pretty obvious that it was a slapdash.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I started pitching to the second cycle, and once we reached the second cycle, I kind of just ran him over, I guess.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Now
So
that makes sense.
for
Like if they're not an Achilles accelerator, you're in for a long game. Basically, that's
yep,
that's kind of how it goes. Yeah.
yep. For our third match, it was against KO.
Mm-hmm.
For the KO, I mean, there's nothing much. It's just disrupting the KO
Mm-hmm.
and hoping he doesn't high roll you, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of
Yep.
what you have to go with. Yeah.
Yep. For my round four, it was a second Levia.
Mm-hmm.
For this Levia, he did not know my entire deck list. Thank goodness. So,
Probably helpful.
so
Yes.
yeah, it was probably helpful. But this Levia was So he was an Indonesian actually,
Mm-hmm.
and the other Uzuri in the calling that was currently undefeated at this time was his teammate. So
Okay,
he got
so
kind of paranoid when he saw another Uzuri because
right.
apparently his teammate beat him up a bunch.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
But he
So
wasn't
I
like
want.
completely new and unexperienced. He knew the matchup to some extent at least. Okay,
Yep.
makes
Yep.
sense. Yeah.
So I won this Levaya as well.
Mhm.
Then round five was a slapdash,
Mhm.
which I won as well. So both these slapdashes actually I managed to banish an equipment off them. So for the
Nice.
round two slapdash, I banished their Arcanite Skullcap,
Mhm.
and the round five slapdash, I banished their Teklo Foundry Hut.
Nice.
So you can imagine it's quite crucial to their game plan.
Mhm. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it just takes out some extra blocks, so you get additional value, and you get some silver, which is nice, obviously.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, pretty good.
So round six was a KO,
Mhm.
similar to the previous one. It was just disrupting the KO.
Mhm.
Round seven was a KO as well. So both of these were wins.
Mhm.
And round eight was a local of mine who was on Jomai.
Okay.
So this was a slightly odd matchup because he started off round one with Mirugai and Chromai on the field.
Okay. That's a very
Which,
explosive start. Okay.
yep, yep. But then he clunked in the middle of the game where he drew a lot of D-reacts and stuff. So I
Okay.
managed to pull this off as well. Then it was round nine was the Azalea that was undefeated on day one.
Mhm.
But Azalea, he was on a Skullbone cross rep build,
Mhm.
and it's not really that difficult for us, I guess. So that was a win as well.
Mhm.
Round 10 was Vespa on Prism,
Mhm.
the undefeated Prism.
Yep.
So that should be able to tell you my results.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's interesting that both of you had never played the respective matchup before, right?
Yep, yep. So we
That's
kind of like reviewed our hero, and then he took up my Uzuri hero, and I took up the Prism hero,
like
and we
what does
both
this
started
do?
reading each
Yeah,
other's
yeah, yeah.
ability.
Interesting. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And my round 11 opponent was actually a Hatchet Dory, but he was
Hmm.
given a match loss, unfortunately.
Okay.
So, yeah, I guess it was a free way into my
Yep.
top 8.
Yeah, I mean, we'll
Yeah.
take those honestly. Like
Yep,
it
yep,
takes
I'll
it
take it,
takes a
man.
little bit of luck to make it through Swiss in a big event like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, overall, I would say these are like fairly decent pairings for an Uzuri list. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously,
I
like
mean, besides the Jomai.
besides the Dromai, like Dromai is a tough matchup. Prism, I would say, is also probably Prism favored if they know what
Mhm.
they're doing,
Yep.
which I guess Vespa definitely did. And I would say Slapdash, based on my limited experience with that matchup, is also probably not necessarily Uzuri favored. I think like
Yeah.
the hybrid dash list, right, where they just run a couple of pistol items and otherwise it's a boost deck, and then against you they just play more mid rangey and prioritize the items. I think that's pretty doable if you have some
Hmm.
experience with it. But I think like the very defensive, very grindy, D-react heavy slapdash lists, those can be pretty tough to actually win
Mm.
against. So definitely a good job on taking down two of these. And then yeah, like KO, like you said, is just playing the value game and
Yeah.
hoping he doesn't high roll you basically. Like just keep up the
Yep.
disruption and try to not let him, keep that 5 card hand that he needs to really steamroll you. And then usually it's kind of doable, but sometimes they just go like, okay, turn 0, cast bones into a blood rush, and then you just start down like you had just lost 20 life and the game is on turn 1, and there's just not a whole lot you can do to recover from that. Sometimes
Yeah,
that's just
there's
how it
not
goes.
much you can do at that point.
Yeah. But sometimes they play a wild riot and they discard a cast bones and their turn just doesn't do anything. So, it kind of balances out in my experience. Like you can kind of bank on the KO having one turn that is just like stupid good. And then usually also another turn where they just kind of fumble and their deck doesn't cooperate, That's usually how it goes in my experience with that matchup. So
Yep.
All right. Okay, so I would say we just go over to the practice match. And let's just switch over here. And I already have your deck list loaded up here. We're going to do request undo CC just because in my experience, that's typically where you find like the most focused opponents, I would say, that are like the most serious about playing the game. Okay, let's go. And then let's see what we get. Okay, easy. We got a Kassai. Very nice. Let's just go with that. And we go over here, Kassai. Just click that. 65 cards is correct.
Yep.
And we run no amnesia, makes sense, no hurl, and no down and dirty. That's perfect. Do you want to run balance or Crown of Providence?
I'm currently on balance, so
Balance.
let's go
Stick
with
with
that.
that. Okay, sounds good.
Yep.
And they will go first, which I guess makes sense because they want to get some cards in their graveyard. Okay, they run Hot Streak and a Saber. They run Tunic. Okay, that's interesting. I guess they want to go for like the longer game.
They might also be on Shunt.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Oh yeah, they're on an Aces.
And
So
Oasis.
yeah.
Yep, there it is.
pretty decent chance they're on Aces and Shunts. Okay, so they attack us with Hot Streak for 2 here, which means if we give them a I guess we can block with the Shred here. What do you think?
Yeah.
They typically don't run a lot of attack reactions that work on the first attack. So I think we just block this with Shred, right? Because that doesn't give him free go again. And if they want to like play a Blade Runner, they have to pitch another card to this. So I think they just pass here, most likely. Yep. So the Arsenal card, we have a CNC. Okay, so this hand is a little bit odd. I think we just throw the CNC and then Arsenal the Death Touch.
Yep.
Sounds good. Like it's a little red heavy.
It happens sometimes with this list.
It's a Redline list. Yes, it's in the name. Obviously, ideally, you would hope to draw like a stealth card to send out like an isolate or something. But yeah, it doesn't always line up that way. So okay, they block with 2 Blade Runners. So they have 1 yellow in their graveyard now, which is okay. Okay, double Codex of Frailty this early is a little bit annoying.
Yeah, it's odd.
But we do have the CNC in the graveyard, so we already have something that works with it. It's not the worst. Okay, and this is a naked Hot Streak. I think we just don't block this, right?
Yep.
Naked Sword for 2, you just go, all right, there's no coins attached to this.
Yep.
There's
Show me what you got.
There we go. All right. And now it's probably the Saber. Saber for 5. So I think I'm fine just going like blocking with the Inertia Trap to get rid of their arsenal, and then we can just go like Rabble into Death Touch with the Codex and Arsenal the other Codex. Sounds good?
Yep.
Right. And this is why Inertia Trap is good. Because like there's so many decks that run pumped attacks of some form.
Yeah.
And then this way they just don't have an arsenal now. And then that's lovely. Okay, Nimble Strike. Not ideal here because we haven't seen ideal. But yeah, that's Nimble Strike for you. Sometimes that's how it goes. Okay, they block on the Valiant Dynamo with Valiant Dynamo on the Rabble here. Kind of interesting.
I'm guessing they just want to get their block value and they're not going to block for the rest of the turn.
Maybe because they saw that we didn't attack with the Scale Peeler and they were thinking, okay, maybe we're going to attack with the Scale Peeler now. And then, you know, they don't have to, they don't waste their block basically. So I guess it makes sense. So if this hits, do you choose Frailty here or do you go for Blood Rot against Kassai?
It depends on how many cards he's willing to give me. if they're gonna keep the entire hand, I'll probably give them a frailty token
Mm-hmm.
just to lessen the damage because it's probably a big turn on their end.
Mm-hmm. Makes
But
sense, yeah.
if they've given me say 2 cards for the turn,
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably give a blood rod instead.
Mm-hmm. Okay, blood on the hands and a nourishing. Okay.
I'll
That
take it.
is interesting. I'll take that, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And then we play the Codex, and if we draw blue, we have Tunic up. We can go Dagger into CNC next turn at like
Yep.
the base value. So
Mhm.
okay, he's coming in with Versus Hot Streak. So he doesn't have, unless he has like a free go again, like a Glint here.
Mm.
I think we're still not blocking this, right? And if he does have a Glint, we just sink.
I'll
Or
probably
what's
yeah.
the plan
If
here?
he has a glint, if he has a glint, no, actually either way, just wait till his reactions and
Mm-hmm.
then we'll decide from there.
Yep.
Because we have a sync and we don't need to decide now.
The only issue I see right now is that we can't use the codex. But I think it's probably fine. Yeah, let's just see what he does.
Yep.
Okay, no reactions.
No reactions.
I think we
It
sync
just yeah, sync and
and
sync the
sync the
nimble
nimble
strike.
strike, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also what I would do. Yeah. Wait, I passed. Unfortunately, that was dumb. I should have
Oh.
played the sync.
Oh
Let's
well.
see if he allows. Okay, he allows. Nice guy. Um, happens sometimes with Talishar. You just kind of.
Yeah.
Okay, so we pass
Just
here.
Talishar.
Defense step is over. He doesn't react. We sync. So there we go. Okay. And then we sync the nimble strike.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not exactly what I was looking for here.
Yeah.
To be honest, but it's okay. Okay. So what do we do here? We could actually go Tunic, Dagger into E-Strike for 7.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, we don't have a Leave No Witnesses. That's the problem. Like, we don't really have
Yep.
a good zero cost in the graveyard right
Yep.
now.
Yep.
The other option is we go E-Strike for 5 go again, and Codex, and then Death Touch.
Yeah. I'll probably go more towards the E-Strike Codex Death Touch.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we discard a card.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll probably discard the Shred.
Yep. Makes sense.
Because
Yeah.
we have two sixes at the bottom,
Yep.
and then we have a Nimble Strike after that.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So we just go again for 5. Okay, he's just eating that. Ah, no, he has a Fate Foreseen in Arsenal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's actually kind of annoying now because now we give him the Nourishing Emptiness back.
It's not exactly the worst. We still have balance up.
True. Yeah, we have balance and black text, so we can full block it if we need to.
Yep.
That's true, yeah. Okay, yeah, let's go for it. Fair enough. And he does have to discard, so at least we get another card out of his hand.
Slightly inefficient, but it happens sometimes.
Yeah, with Codex, sometimes, there's no good way of. Sometimes you just have to play it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And the frailty alone in this specific matchup is like so good.
Yeah, it's too good.
Yeah.
Discarded in the swing.
Okay.
Interesting.
I don't hate to see that. That's one of their better cards, especially for the late game. Okay, blocking with Iron Song. Probably has another sync here.
Mm-hmm.
Or like a Fate or something, but some form of D-React. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think we flick here, right? Like it's too early.
Yeah, it's too early.
Yeah. Just
not for this matchup.
Let him have the value, yeah.
Actually, there may be a consideration to just never flick Nerve Scalpel in this matchup because it works for Kassai's attack reactions as well.
Spreading Plague. Do we want that in Arsenal right now?
It's not too bad because of Valiant Dynamo.
True.
So you get at least 2 most of the time.
That is true, yeah. Yep, and he plays the Nourishing.
Yep.
Okay,
There
so
it
we
is.
can just go balance sync.
We also could just go
Actually,
black tech sync.
black tech sync,
Yeah.
true, because it's only coming in
Yeah.
for 5. Yeah, true.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't hate that. And then we sync one of the E strikes because we obviously don't need 2 of those.
Yep.
So we just go black text, sync below. Okay, inertia trap, not the worst. So I would go maybe nerf scalpel and then E strike for 7.
Yep.
Keep the spreading plague around.
Yep.
Or do we E strike for 7 and then possibly spreading plague if he decides to block?
The thing is, if you nerf Scalpel and you go for
Oh, I have 1 floating anyways.
7, you will have 1
true,
float.
true.
Correct.
Yep. I can't math. Okay, that's 1. Okay, it's
Unfortunately, his
just
Valiants aren't up this turn.
just 1. Are we sending the spreading just to clear it, or do we wait?
Nah, I'll probably wait because Valiant's bound to happen at some point in the game.
True. And he might have a sync. Like if he has another defensive card here, like a
Then I
sync
would
or a
give the
fade, then I
spreading
would.
plague.
But yeah, right now not. That's fair. We are getting some early codexes, man. This is
an odd hand.
Yeah. Also doesn't block very well, unfortunately. Okay, so it's a hot streak for 2, and this has coins attached to it. So he probably has another Blade Runner, and I would assume he has a Blade Flurry here because he's firing that off. Do we maybe just block this with balance?
I usually prefer to keep balance for their Spalls of War turn because I feel like Copper is slightly more important towards Kassai.
True.
At the moment, Kassai already has 1 goal actually.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind giving her another goal, to be honest.
So you just don't block?
Yeah, I'll probably just leave this.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. And yellow Blade Runner. All right.
There it is.
There we go. Sure. And now it's the Saber for 4. Yeah, I guess we just go Inertia Trap again.
Yep.
And then what does our hand actually do? That's kind of the question, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we can go Rabble into Isolate and just hope they block for a bunch. And then
I was thinking more of Isolate and possibly swapping into Rebel.
Okay, that's also interesting, yeah. All right. And then the problem is we have this stuck here, right? That's kind of the issue right now.
So the Isolate will bait out the block.
Yeah, but we don't have anything to pay for the Spreading Plague. Unless we keep the Inertia Trap, right?
We don't exactly need to swap the Rebel in if they block enough.
True. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
that is fair.
But give the Inertia Trap here.
Yep. Oh, Stroke of Foresight. Okay, nice.
Not a lot of Decklist are running Stroke exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of unique.
Yep. I've seen it as like a one-off in lists sometimes, yeah.
It's interesting.
Yep. So we're taking 4, but he still loses the Arsenal, so not terrible here. Okay, so we just send the Isolate, and then ideally...
And try to bait them out their blocks.
Yep. Let's see what he does.
If he doesn't block, then we'll swap over to Rebel. It's still 5 damage.
Yep, true. Okay, blocking for
There it
4.
is.
So I think we just send a spreading here, right?
Yep. Yep.
With the Rebel, and then we arsenal the Codex.
Mhm.
Yep. I'll take that.
Yep.
Okay, versus and hot streak. Yeah, same thing. We don't block, and
Yep.
then possibly fate foreseen.
Mhm.
No blocks. Oh, no reactions either. So he doesn't have
No
Guardian.
reactions. I guess we just give them the fate foreseen.
I think we just still send the fate, yeah. So he
Yeah.
doesn't get the courage token.
Yep. Yep.
It's kind of inefficient, but you know.
Guess he's paying for the blood rod. Kind of
That's
odd.
possible, yeah. Shakedown. So do we want to have Shakedown in Arsenal? Because right now we can like double dagger and then Codex CNC. And I don't think we want Shakedown in Arsenal because it's not the best Arsenal target, right?
We are, because we still have an infect in hand, so it's
Mhm.
not likely going to be a double codex turn. I think
I
maybe,
mean, we
or
can
maybe a
over.
double codex infect into surgical extraction, because you have your tunic up as well.
Mhm.
So probably shake down for the next turn, I guess.
So keep it on top. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it can stay on top
Yep. All
because
right.
it's still a pretty good card.
Yeah, that's true. It is, yeah. Okay, I guess they do pay for at least one of these blood rods. Sure, yeah. No worries.
Does he have more reactions?
I don't know. I think he maybe wanted to arsenal something, or he clicked no.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Yeah. That makes
Interesting.
sense.
Yep.
Okay, that's actually pretty nice. Yeah, that's good value here actually. Yeah, nice. Yep, it deals damage. Bloodrock Pox doesn't cause loss of life, so this actually works. So he gets an agility token for his next turn. He gets an arsenal. He still takes 2 from the other blood rod, but okay. So what do? We go dagger, infect,
Scale
surgical.
pillar. Yeah, scale pillar, no scalpel, infect into surgical.
With the tunic.
Yep, with tunic.
Sure. Okay. Yep. Sounds good. I mean, this doesn't do a whole lot here because he only has the verses left to block with.
It's surprising that he hasn't refreshed his Valiant Dynamo for quite a number of turns.
Yeah. That's true.
Kind of odd. Blocking for 2. Okay. Yeah, sure.
I guess we do swap it in.
Yep.
I suppose.
I mean, if he has a D-react, we'll just bait it out, I guess.
Yep. Ah, yeah, he has the
There it
instant
is.
fate. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yep.
That makes sense. I'll take it.
I mean, 6/4, sure.
Yep.
I'll take it.
Pretty decent, yeah. Got 2 cards out of him. Okay, this hand is actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's a decent hand.
Okay, slice and dice. And then he comes in for 3, and then for what's that? There was a red one, right? 3 and then 5. Okay. So he already has go again. So I don't mind. What do we do here? Do we go isolate shakedown or nimblism leave no?
Well, he's probably gonna get his Valiant Dynamos back next turn. So I mean, Nimblism into Leave No Witnesses is just gonna take the Valiant Dynamo again. So I'm probably leaning more towards isolate into shakedown, blocking with the surgical, and if we do get the chance, we might pop black text to play the codex from
Mhm.
Arsenal as well.
And then play the leaf. No, yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Yep. So I'm just blocking 3 here because oh no, wait, that's the Centauri Saber actually, right? So I could just block with the Nimblism here. Yeah, I think that makes more sense actually
Yeah,
because
it is.
it's the same kind of value
Yep.
actually. Yeah. Still get hit for 1, but he's not threatening any coins. So that doesn't exactly matter. He does get the go again here, but I don't think he can do anything with it, so I'm fine with this
Unless
happening.
they have 2 floating resource, then it might be
Yeah.
a
Then
CNC
it could be
or a
CNC
nourishing.
or a nourishing or something, but he still
Yep.
has the
Oh, his
nourishing in the
nourishing is still
graveyard.
there. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we just go isolate shakedown and then possibly
Yep.
pop black text and then just see
Mhm.
what happens. Yep. Sounds good. I don't think they're running cash in, by the way. I think they're setting
Yeah.
up. They're setting up for like a raise an army endgame here.
Yep. It's a possibility.
Yeah. Okay.
Block it for 1.
This is dangerous. If this was already dead, he has the shunt. Okay. Yep. All right. And I guess he wants to. Why is he blocking with dynamos here then? There's nothing we can
Afraid of the shred.
send. Maybe he's afraid of the nerf scalpel, right?
Mhm.
He doesn't want to play into the nerf scalpel, so he's blocking like this. So even if we nerf scalpel, it doesn't do anything. But I don't mind getting this here. I'd much rather get this like that instead of him having tunic up and getting this for free. So
Yep. Definitely.
I'm okay with this outcome. And another naked hot streak. I'm fine.
Sure.
Still fine not blocking this.
Yep. There it is.
Yep. Blade Runner. Okay. So, I'm thinking of actually blocking with the CNC here.
Yeah.
Because then we can do isolate, death touch, black text, nimblism, codex, leave no. If we, get that to connect. So yeah,
Yep.
blocking with the CNC here. Okay, here's into swing. Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
I don't hate that because it means he doesn't have a direct in Arsenal, so that's actually pretty decent. We do take a chunk of damage here, but that's the second into swing gone, so he only has 1 of those left.
Yeah.
And then Blade Runners, Blade Flurries, obviously. We haven't seen any of these, but other than that...
He'll also have to discard the card
he
for
does
codex.
have 1 Blade Flurry here, yeah. I mean, he might have another shunt, obviously, and then he can do the same thing again, but, Okay, let's just start with the ice.
Can't exactly play around that.
Yeah, no, we can't. Like, if it happens, it happens.
No blocks.
Okay, so he does probably have a shunt. Let's see. He does. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't have a shunt. I guess we go black text here.
Let's try.
Yep. Because if he does have a shunt, we can flick, and I think that's actually a spot where I would flick.
Yeah, it's not a bad choice.
So what do we take here? Because we're already giving him a frailty, right?
Yeah.
Do we give him double frailty just to really mess with him, or do we go with Blood Rod?
The thing is, if you give him double frailty, now he'll probably use his hands to block out the leave no witnesses already.
So I think we go
so
with
it's probably
Blood Rod,
a Blood Rod. Yeah.
Makes sense, yeah. I mean, he does get the nourishing. Oh no, I think he does
still
get
there.
He does get the nourishing back. Yeah.
But it's coming in for 5, so 1 card and our balance of justice will deal with it.
Yep. True. And he does have dynamos, but he still needs to give us 2 cards.
Yeah, it's still 2 cards.
Yep. So he's down to 1 card if he wants to protect that, which is fine because like nourishing is a pretty decent 2-card play, but he doesn't get dynamos then on the next turn, so pretty solid. Okay, raise an army, nice. 1 of those gone.
That's 1.
I don't hate to see that. I don't think
Yeah.
they're running 3 typically.
Not exactly
Some
sure.
lists are, but okay, nice.
Mhm.
And a shred. I
Yeah, that's
think
not too bad.
I think it's fine to Arsenal because he is blocking quite a bit,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
I think we can Arsenal this, yeah.
Oh yeah, this is this is a pretty good hand.
Hmm. Okay, so I guess we go. I mean, he doesn't have an Arsenal, so the leave no is not as good.
Yep.
But I think we block with
It's
the shakedown here, right?
um
Or
I'm thinking it's probably leave no and balance
mm-hmm,
because you can play the shakedown,
mm-hmm,
pitching the shred,
mm-hmm.
wait for him to block 2 cards and play the shred in arsenal.
True.
Mm.
I mean, that's pretty decent, yeah. Or we go Nimblism, leave no, but it's less impactful because he doesn't have an Arsenal.
Yep,
Yeah,
because he doesn't have an
that's
arsenal, then he'll
fair. Yeah.
just take it.
Yep. Yep. All right. So we go like this, and then leave no. That's fair. Takes another 2, and then we just do this. Nice.
If he doesn't block it, I guess we'll flick.
Mm-hmm. Oh no,
There it is.
easy 6 block.
Yep. Yep.
Right, straight up, and then we shred, and then maybe he has a D-react here. Yep, he does.
Yeah, sure.
I'll take that. It's
I'll
fine.
take
It's
it.
still 3 cards,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
I'm not hating that. And we got rid of the shred. We can Arsenal a Nimblism, which is like very, very easy card to Arsenal. So, okay, Tunic, and what does he do? Okay, just a hot streak for 2.
Tunic and a hot streak. That's
I
interesting.
think what we can do is we just go CNC,
Yeah.
and then because he's getting an Arsenal, we just CNC and then Spreading Plague off the blue, so we can Fate
Yeah.
Foreseen here.
Yep.
I don't hate it.
Yeah, I don't hate it.
Like we're kind of wasting our D reacts, but
Yeah, but
that's
I
just
mean we are kind of have tempo, so
it's just how it lines up. Okay, yeah,
yep.
I'll keep that on the top.
Actually, you might want to
Yeah,
bottom that.
okay.
Yeah, because he's gonna be blocking with at least 2 cards next
Ah,
turn.
true. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, kind of messed that up. That's fair. Yeah,
I
he's
mean,
gonna be
yeah.
blocking a bunch. That's true.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's fine. He's still gonna attack us with something, and then should be okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't really dagger here, unfortunately. So
Yeah. So it's
let's
just
go
a
with
it's just
this.
a hard cast CNC.
Yep. I mean, we could have gone with like backstab CNC, and then switch into the Spreading Plague. But I guess if we want to get him to block, this is actually better. So
Mm-hmm.
not hating that. Got the spoils and another slice and dice
Yeah.
out. Also very solid.
Mhm. He may have 2 spells in hand. Oh no.
No, he has
Oh,
Outland
okay.
Skirmish.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. So it's a hot streak for, what is that, 5? He's activating Kassai, okay.
Mm-hmm.
He really wants those coins. Okay, so this is a turn where we have to block out.
Oh, there's another spoils.
He doesn't have go again currently though, and he has no way to swing again. So
Yep.
if we block this, even if
It's
we give
probably
him
over.
go again, that's it. Like he can't. He might have an attack reaction in the arsenal right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, what does our hand actually do? That's kind of the question. Like we could go infect into surgical, obviously. Or we go just nimblism infect.
I'll probably do scale peeler surgical extraction of tunic.
Okay, that's pretty decent, yeah. So how do we block? We just go infect into Fate Foreseen?
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. If he does have in the swing, this blows us a bit out. So we're not playing around that currently, but
In the swing only triggers if he's swung
Oh,
twice.
right, it's on the twice. Yeah, you're actually correct. Yeah.
Yep.
I think we can leave that on the top.
Yeah, you can stay.
Because our turn
It's
isn't
just another swap target.
Yeah, our turn isn't terribly impactful, so there's a chance that he'll keep enough cards to reset Dynamo.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's taking
That's
another
4 damage.
Actually, I think we swing Nerve Scalpel here, right? Not Scale Peeler, because the Peeler doesn't really do anything.
He still has Iron Song
might
versus
have
up.
block with the Iron Song, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, let me do a quick count of his D-Reacts. We've seen 2 Fate Foreseens. We haven't seen any Sinks.
Would you check the Banish as well?
Right, true. 1 Sink
That's
and
3.
3. So we have seen all Fate Foreseens, and there's 2 more Sinks that are still left in the deck. I mean, we can flick if we have to, right? So
yeah,
if it's really necessary.
even if we get an extra D-React, it's fine, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
D-React?
Nope.
I guess
Regular
not.
reaction. Oh, maybe he's doing a double block with a D-React now to play around the shred. That is
or
also
maybe
possible.
he's playing
take it on the chin. Okay.
The chin. I'll probably flick here.
Yeah. Which one do we flick?
It's probably Scale Peeler.
Scale Peeler, right?
Yep.
Yep. I think that's valid. Probably.
You have to wait for it to resolve first.
Oh right, true. Hang on. Otherwise that doesn't work.
Alisha stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so we wait for this to resolve. It's not like a D-React. Now we flick. I keep messing that up. He plays Remembrance. Okay. That's,
so he's basically giving us the last card in hand.
That is interesting, yeah. Huh. Okay, sure. He does get the agility. So we flick the Peeler, right? Yeah.
Yep, the Peeler. So his agility is basically
that's another Raise an Army.
Yep.
And we got 1 silver off of the what was it? Hit and run. We hit off the top.
Yeah, I would say it's a pretty good turn.
I'll take it. Ooh, Isolate Already Dead Shred, yeah. And he can't really do anything. He has no resources. So the agility goes to waste and he just passes. Okay, so I guess we do Nerve Scalpel Already Dead.
Yep.
And then that's it. Yep.
Yeah. Pretty standard.
Pretty standard turn, yeah.
If he throws D-Reacts in front of this, we may gain a silver. That's a reaction.
No, that's an
action.
It's an action. Unfortunately, yeah.
Unfortunate. We can still shred it though. It's still 6 damage.
Yeah. Sure. I will absolutely shred this here.
Yep.
Because it's a yellow shred, so even if he has a sink now, we're not getting any more value than that. So this is fine. He has an ace.
Oasis.
Okay. But he needs to spend a card for it. So.
Yep, that's 1 more card. That's the second Spalls.
Yep. The third one actually.
In the graveyard.
It's actually the third one, I think.
Yeah.
So
there's the second one in the deck.
Yep. Okay.
Ooh, CNC. Okay.
No silver, but also not the worst. Do we actually have a target? Oh yeah, we have the dagger because we. Flicked, right?
We also have 2 in hand, so we could just block with one of them.
Good point. Yes. Okay, he's pitching Raise an Army to draw a card off the gold. That's also interesting. So that's the, I think the 3rd Raise an Army that we've seen so far.
Yeah, it is. And it's going to the bottom.
One's here. And where's the second? He pitched the second one, right?
It's banished.
1 is banished, yeah.
Yeah.
Did we see the 3rd one? No, that's the second one, right? Yeah. Okay. So that's a hot streak for 2.
Yeah, so I mean we can just let it go.
That's actually problematic right now, because if we let this through, like, I think it's wrong to block this. I mean, we have the dagger, so I think we're fine. We're just not blocking
Yep.
this. Yeah, we have
Yep.
the dagger, so it's fine. Yep. Tunic, and okay, there's a Blade Runner.
There it is.
Sure, that's fine. Let's go. And this one's hitting for 5.
Yeah, just block with one of
So
them.
yeah, I think we can block with one card, and then we just go looking for a scrap, dagger, nimblism, leave no.
There's actually also a way where you could just let this hit as well, and arsenal the isolate for the
Okay.
next turn.
Sure.
Yeah, just for consistency's sake.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And also, like, if we block this, he gets another value off of it. So the block is
Yep.
really just for like one value, or like 2. So
I mean, we have the life buffer for it
yeah,
anyway,
we do.
so
We do.
we
That's
might
true.
as well.
That's fair. Good point. Okay, so we go looking for a scrap. Man, if we had the already dead now, that would be nice.
Yep. Oh, you forgot the nerve scalpel.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I can still
yeah,
do it.
you
It's
can
just
still do
kind of,
it.
it's a little more telegraphed now. So yeah, but I mean, it's not like he's gonna block that. So.
That'll be
Probably another sink
a
here.
react.
Ah no, Oasis. Okay.
Another Oasis. Okay.
Yep.
It's really backfiring on him because he's having to pitch a card to it.
Yep. Absolutely, yeah.
His tunic really isn't lining up with them.
I know that feeling. It happens to me when I run Oasis too. Like every single time. Spend a tunic, draw up an Oasis. Standard turn for me. It's like a Plague Hive classic, basically.
So that's their Iron Song versus.
That's gone, yeah.
And they won't have their dynamos for next turn as well.
Ah, there we go. Okay. Yep. We arsenal this.
Yeah. Oh, that's not a bad hand.
Yep, I'll take it. So I think we go. I would go tunic, dagger off of the isolate, then go isolate OED, shred it, and then arsenal the sink, right?
Yeah. Or actually, there may be a argument to pitch the sink below as well, because we kind of have tempo at the moment.
Okay, and just arsenal the isolate instead. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay, sure.
for consistency.
Yep. Makes sense.
We should be coming back to the 2 6s that we pitched at the start of the game soon.
Yep, absolutely, yeah. Ooh, he's blocking with tunic here. That's okay. So he probably has take it on the chin here.
Possibly. Or he just wants to save as much HP as possible.
I mean, I'm still shredding, so.
Yep. We are still
Again,
shredding.
Yellow shred, so doesn't really make a difference. Shredding this. Yep, he does have to take it on the chin. Makes sense. I'm not flicking.
It's fine.
I'm not flicking here. Like, we're still hitting, and that's not worth it. Okay. Choose the tunic, obviously. Get a silver, so we can buy back black text next turn.
I believe you're at 3.
We are at 3 actually. Yeah, because we banished a run through, so we got off the top another reaction. So yep, pretty solid. So
black text is just another block for us as well.
Yep. Sure. Yeah, you can undo.
Odd. Okay.
Okay, he just throws the CNC. Oh, for 6 go again. I mean, that's not so bad.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
And our hand is kind of not great, honestly.
It's not too bad
It's not too bad,
actually. You
yeah.
can just block with the shred and the red infect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, cause we kept an isolate from the previous turn.
Yep, yep. True.
Yeah.
But he's gonna threaten coins now, I think.
Mm, not really a big issue.
Okay.
Not at this stage
Yeah,
of the game.
yeah, fair, fair. Yeah, he activates Kassai now.
Mm-hmm.
Banishing. He's not banishing the CNC, so maybe
He's
he only
keeping
runs the single nourishing? I don't know.
possibly.
Or maybe he just wants to get stuff back when we codex him? I don't know.
But he's still risking it if we give him a codex though.
Hmm.
Unless he's gonna take the CNC instead.
Yeah. So I think we just
Yeah.
take this and then we just go
Yep.
Rabble into Isolate Death Touch, right?
Mm-hmm. Not much of a big deal here.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, we'll give you the code.
Yep.
Yeah,
We'll
we'll buy
equip
those
those.
back.
Sure. And then we go Rabble. Okay, still flipping a red. Very
Yeah,
nice.
the deck's behaving.
Yep. it's doing what it's supposed to, yeah.
Yep, it's behaving.
Nice. It doesn't always do that.
Yeah, unfortunately not.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
That's the
They are back to their
last spoils.
second cycle as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
They do have a couple of shunts left, but yeah.
I mean, at this point, you just give them Blood Rod
Yeah,
because
of
there are
course.
two.
Because it's lethal,
You're
yeah.
basically demanding them to pitch a blue.
Yep. He might only have
This
reds.
isn't
He
too
already
bad of
said
a
good
hack.
game. Maybe he only has reds.
Oh.
It's possible.
Yeah, it's yikes then. Sorry, Joey.
Attempting to end turn here. What is happening?
They pitching for
I think
Blood
so.
Rod?
Maybe, maybe not.
Possibly.
Yeah. They did pass priority.
Huh?
He does have a blue, but he's
Okay.
cashing
Another
in
blue,
for that.
perhaps?
Maybe he has 2 blues. Yeah, it's possible.
Oh, okay.
Okay, slice and dice. Pretty solid. I mean, he doesn't have go again here. I think I'm happy to let this hit. Because it's just 3. And
Yeah, we'll probably just let it hit. Unless he has the go again, then we'll block with one card.
I mean, if he has the go again, we block the Centauri Saber, obviously, with a card. But
Yep.
if he doesn't have another Blade Runner or something, yeah, this is just
Okay.
that's just it. I think he is pitching to the Blood Rot here.
Is he?
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
double reds though.
Yeah.
Okay, what can we do with this hand? That's also. I guess we can do like Nimble Strike into Shakedown and then Flick. That should kill him, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we can still codex after.
I mean, not with this hand, but with the next one then. So we go.
I mean, Nimble Strike into Shakedown. I mean, Nimble Strike pitching Shakedown.
Oh, pitching Shakedown. Okay.
Yeah, or
I
he
guess,
can
or
just
that
do
happens.
that.
That also works. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
fair
or
enough.
you could just do that.
Fair enough. That also works. Okay, so yeah, that's a Kassai game with the Redline list. And I know like a lot of people are like, yeah, this deck isn't that great into the dual wield warriors. But I think it has a decent chance, honestly. Like obviously, to some extent it's a skill matchup, right? Like you need to need to know what they can do, they need to know what you can do, and then it just comes down to, okay, who is the better player in this scenario? As you know, frequently happens, but yeah.
We kind of also had tempo for most of the game.
Yeah.
Which is kind of odd. So he didn't exactly get to refresh his dynamos every turn. Because if they do refresh their dynamos at every turn, they are probably blocking with it every turn as well.
Yep, it
which
gets a lot harder.
Much higher chance to banish it with already dead.
I think he had a lot of. He was very unfortunate with his tunic, I think. Because he kept drawing like these oasis, shunts, and all of that.
Yep, it backfired
always
on
when
him.
he didn't have the tunic up. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of the issue with that kind of build of Kassai, where you kind of have to play very, very inefficiently when your tunic's not up if you want to utilize these cards. So you need to kind of make sure that you don't run too many of them, just because they might clunk up, and we see what happens when that kind of um, happens to them.
Yeah,
Their
it gets
turns
awkward.
their turn cycles are just really inefficient, and that's really not what dual wield warrior wants. Like these decks are all about efficiency, so
Yeah.
having to play turn cycles that are inefficient is really not something that they want to do.
Mhm.
All right, so yeah, that's it. All done with the game. We showed you what the deck can do, what the lines look like. Like we said in the beginning, this is a fairly classic red line list. If you've ever played any like aggressive stealth based Uzuri, you know the general, gist of the deck. You know what it's trying to do, what it's trying to achieve. And yeah, thank you again for coming here, for doing this interview with me.
Oh, it's my
Uh,
pleasure.
Congrats again on the top 8 at the Calling. That was
Thank
like
you.
your first bigger event, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's my first calling.
Very nice. So getting top 8 on your first Calling, definitely a big achievement.
Yep.
Congrats on that. Very nice.
Thanks.
And yeah, if you want to take this deck for a spin, try it out for yourself. If you feel intrigued by what you saw today, like I said, the link will be down in the description of the video, and the sideboard is all set up. You can just take this deck, boot it up on Teleshar, play a couple of rounds, and see if you maybe like Uzuri. And if you're gonna be one of the members of the Uzuri gang in the future. And yeah, okay. With that said, again, thanks for being here, and see you guys in the next one.